Hi, I'm Sarah Scott from the Environment Agency. I'm here to help you identify the riparian zone next to your watercourse and to help you understand the importance of this space. First, we're going to think about why riparian zones are so important to the health of our river systems and why encroaching into them with development should be avoided. In summary, the riparian zone is the area of land that runs along the edge of a watercourse. You may have also heard this space referred to as a buffer zone. The riparian zone is a fundamental part of the river that influences the shape, processes and ecology of the watercourse. This space is really important. It can provide refuge and important wildlife corridors for species, as well as inputting woody material and organic matter to the channel. It can also help water quality by acting as a natural filter and slow water flow, controlling flood risk. Vegetation within the riparian zone, particularly trees, can provide shading. This can help species living in or near the watercourse to be more resilient in a changing climate. The character of the riparian zone will vary between different river types and naturally varies along a watercourse. Now let's think about examples of healthy and unhealthy riparian zones. Here is an example of a healthy riparian zone in a lowland area. It is providing habitat complexity, shelter and thermal resilience. We can see that the development is in the distance behind the watercourse. In contrast, here is an example of a riparian zone in an agricultural setting in a lowland environment. It is less healthy as it is impacted by grazing. In this example, we can see that the bank has been trampled by cattle, which releases fine sediment into the river and smothers in-channel habitats. There is also limited shading and shelter as riparian vegetation is trampled and eaten. Here are some examples of degraded urban watercourses where the riparian zone has been completely developed, resulting in the loss of both biodiversity and wider environmental benefits. Here is another example where the fence is preventing wildlife from accessing and using the riparian zone. These riparian zones are not healthy, and the negative pressures are just some examples of riparian zone encroachment. Examples are provided in the statutory metric user guide, but the assessor really needs to use their expert judgment. I would really encourage people to think about how they can reduce or remove encroachment in the riparian zone. Finally, let's identify where the riparian zone is for the purposes of biodiversity net gain. The riparian zone is located on the top of the bank. This picture helps us to identify the bank top. You will notice that the riparian zone doesn't include the bank face. Where the profile of the bank face is complex, it can sometimes be hard to identify the bank top. Put in a very simplistic way, look for a space where the bank starts to level off and water spills out on the floodplain. Ask yourself the question, is this wide enough and flat enough that I could build a shed? If so, this is where the riparian zone starts. The riparian zone is measured from this point, working away from the bank top. The width of the riparian zone varies between the different distinctiveness types as outlined here in the statutory metric user guide. Check out our other videos on tips for spotting enhancement opportunities to achieve your net gain for watercourses. There is a helpful video produced by the Beavers Trust on buffer zones, and we would recommend watching this, and it is available on the Beaver Trust website.